Hello, everyone. We're happy to have Minka here with us today. Minka, thank you so much for joining. How is it going?
It's going great. How's it going with you?
I'm great, thank you. So
Oh,
my first question is, how do you think AI technology is currently being used in our daily lives, and what positive impacts do you see it having?
well, generative AI has definitely made an impact on our daily lives. We have ChatGPT, which is, of course, the most known, but there are tons of open databases and other things that are they're going on too. So there are tons of other products. It's everybody's struggling for the venture capital win to be top of the pile, and everybody's putting out innovation. So it's
Uh, yeah. Mhm.
yeah, it's been in our lives for a long time before generative AI. We have conventional AI, which basically takes our data and puts it in pools and is sold off to marketing companies. So that's been going on for years. But with generative AI, it opens a whole new world.
Do you have any concerns about the use of AI, such as privacy or job displacement? How do you think we can address these concerns?
First of all, job displacement. I think that we have a wonderful opportunity to actually have corporations retrain their people, continually add to their training so that they work with the AI instead of having it work against them. There's need for some experts to be hired, and there's definitely need for training more than anything, because nobody wants to replace their entire workforce just to bring in AI, right? Because it's too much. So as we train and have training programs, that is necessary, which opens the door to training companies to do this. So there's definitely a need for that space, the space of actually being, able to hire a group, hire a platform to train your employees. So that's a huge opportunity for companies that do that.
And what about privacy? How do you think, can,
Privacy has always
yeah.
been a concern. We just haven't really known it. The EU actually helped a great deal in putting their cookie privacy out there. Occasionally, I use the VPN, and actually, I use a VPN all the time. So if I put it in the performance of which country I'm going from, and I look at the cookies out of Europe are way more comprehensive for the most part than the cookies anywhere but California. So this will become also a privacy concern with AI, and I do expect the EU probably take the first stance on it. The need for privacy is huge. When we merge AI with the transparency of the blockchain, that actually helps because we can see where transactions have gone, especially with clearinghouses that are labeled by their name and what they are. So the privacy concerns are huge, though, because essentially they're not regulated right now anywhere. Everything's moved too fast, which gives opportunity for cybersecurity companies, and any company provide, for example, you have the Brave browser, right? You can actually get more privacy through the Brave browser, more privacy sometimes through Firefox. But there's need for essentially Web3 platforms that will provide privacy as we use AI. And they have to be known by everybody, as Google is, as Chrome is, as they have to become household names in order to protect our privacy so people know to use them, essentially, because you can put all the regulations out that you want to, and the regulators are not necessarily well schooled in what they're doing. There could be, I'm thinking of the United States in particular, actually. Yeah. So if you have ubiquitous platforms that the users actually use, then it's going to help considerably with AI privacy. Because right now we don't have much. For example, when you get on ChatGPT, it's completely using your answers. Sometimes it feeds them back to you. I've heard actually people complain about that. It just gave me my own answers back. And then on the other hand, I have another friend who is actually training ChatGPT to produce accurate documentation for medical regulation. So as that evolves, it's that foregoes any privacy. We have to make sure that AI isn't accessing our systems unless we want it to, our documents, our clouds. We have to make sure that it's not talking as businesses to make sure that we only release the parts of our legacy databases that we want it to. And so, because AIs are going to talk to AIs, so we have to build in some privacy for corporations especially. And that's where the cybersecurity companies are huge. Of course, we all know it's a great growing market at the moment, and for good reason.
Yeah, that makes sense. In your opinion, should there be regulations or guidelines in place to govern the development and use of AI? Why or why not?
Let me turn my volume up a little bit because I didn't quite hear you.
Okay. In your opinion, should there be regulations or guidelines in place to govern the development and use of AI? Why or why not?
Yes, I do think there should be. I do think they will probably be behind the curve because governments are slower to move than tech companies. But it is essential to have some sort of regulation whereby your private data is essentially sold less, because an AI can just simply dig into your private data in the cloud, especially if you don't cut off those permissions. So there's a need for a lot of permissioning, and some of that will be via regulation, definitely. We don't need to over-regulate, obviously. We have no need to trample AI with too much regulation, but it won't happen because there are too many countries that are doing too many things, and they will all have their own regulations. So it's essentially a moving target because tech evolves extremely fast, as we all know. And so there's a huge impetus for corporations at the C-level and below to make sure that, of course, they commit to the regulations. I mean, that's a given. But that even before regulations evolve, and probably through Web3, they actually have transparency so that it can be trusted. And decentralized Web3 is the best way to do it. Centralized hasn't shown us a reason to trust so far in anything in the last 10 years. But on Web3, it is much more possible with decentralization on the blockchain. It's still a bit opaque, but you can certainly trace it.
What do you think are the key skills or knowledge that individuals should have to adapt to the increasing presence of AI in society?
Understand it, essentially. I think it should be taught in anything in colleges and universities, and even starting in high schools, though that's probably a little more difficult in some countries. But yes, the individual should be trained on AI because it's part of what they're going to be living with. So if you're 20 and in college or university, it's part of your life. Just like social media became part of the lives of everybody, essentially. It's going to be essential to be educated in not only how to use it, but how to understand it and how it works. So you can have, all the fuss at the moment is everybody talking about how to use ChatGPT, how to do queries, how to do anything to do with it, how to make money from it. And there's all this noise out there. But essentially, and some of it, of course, is useful, but there's also a deeper understanding of how AI algorithms work, deeper understanding of how to move within that to protect your privacy, the privacy of other people as it's developed, and how to essentially understand the whole of it. I mean, there should be at least 3 semesters, right? Just to go into it. So yes. It's, and on another level, simply usage. Again, that includes training people in security, how not to compromise their passwords, 101, right? But there's, corporate courses will be in great demand as part of the re-education and the transformation of the workforce.
How important do you think it is for AI systems to provide explanations or justifications for their decisions or recommendations?
I think it's really important, after some of the answers I got to the last 3 questions, that you suggested that we on a couple of quick queries, and it's really important to continue to work and train these AIs to do what we want to do, because part of it is training them. And I was curious, I asked an AI, which, since I'm saying they weren't very good answers, I won't mention who that was, but it wasn't ChatGPT. Training the AIs to provide explanations and justifications by means of links is very important, because then you can go in and read context. Training it as far as why they come to this recommendation, yes, that would be great. Actually, because I haven't seen it yet. So as it's known that sometimes ChatGPT, for example, will give inaccurate answers, especially ChatGPT 3, the free version, which a lot of people are using. It gives wrong answers sometimes. It's known to, it's published. So if there were explanations, if there were links, if there were justifications, it would make it a little bit clearer. Now you can use some of them to write. Okay, that's extremely useful. There are platforms opening to write emails for cold outreach. There's all kinds of marketing platforms popping up. So that's useful to the company, to the individual. But if the AI is not trained in what the company actually does, then it can be erroneous. You can't do it to provide a sales pitch yet without incorporating that. So again, we have the need for platforms that will do that will essentially bring in the company's data and then create pitches, slide decks, everything from that. And so people will be trained in how to do that. Justification and recommendations should be looked into, because the AIs are essentially about training them, right? So these AIs have to be trained on how they answer questions within a corporate space.
Do you personally use ChatGPT?
Sometimes I've used it to write a sales pitch for an Airbnb, and provided the information and it just asked it to rewrite. I used it for, other than asking questions, and there are a couple others that I prefer for that. I'm going to give a plug to Aomni AI here. Because Aomni actually goes into the web and provides detail, and there's a part which allows you to do link training right now to help it provide answers. ChatGPT, yes, it's useful for some things. It's not really useful for answering questions without going in great depth and doing the query thing of certain queries, which honestly I don't have the patience for personally, because I'd rather get an idea and then ask questions based on that, which I suppose is continued query. Yes, I do use AI. I've used some of the image creation ones. I've used, I just try them out as I get time. How about you? Have you used them?
Yes, I use ChatGPT daily, especially for writing emails and especially for rephrasing my sentences. But I agree with you about the fact that you have to provide really detailed question to him, so he can maybe answer in the good way. But sometimes if you ask like question without any detail, sometimes it's confusing. And also I'm using it for my university. I mean, sometimes when I don't understand the definition of something, I use ChatGPT to rewrite it for me by using simple words. And it also helps for my siblings for their school assignments sometimes on this level, But it's definitely not useful, I think, to write articles or some papers, assignments,
It's not. I did get a great sales pitch for an Airbnb property that I had all this, and I asked it to rewrite it. But of course it did a great job of that. And it can be helpful if you've already written it, as you're saying, right? So if you've already written something, you can ask it to put it in a format of whatever you're trying to do, whether it's sales or a paper, or that can be useful, but essentially you have to give it everything first.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Let's talk about AI and Web3. In the context of Web3, have you come across any instances where AI is integrated or utilized? If so, could you provide some specific examples and explain how AI enhances or transforms the Web3 experience?
I've read about it more than I've experienced it because it's so nascent, because we're getting into a combination of essentially AI, blockchain, and cryptocurrency, right? So the platforms are evolving. I mean, ahead of the curve is for essentially for enterprise, right? IBM's been working on this for several years, and they're top of the pile pretty much, as is Consensus. And then what happens is, of course, we get all the startups and they disrupt, and it's a process, as you know. Specific examples, I'm still doing research on, because there is a huge opportunity for providing, for example, marketing platforms for retail, because you have blockchain, you have the transparency, you have everything tracked. You have your AI doing its work to produce marketing programs. You have crypto that you can, and NFTs that you can use as rewards. So there's a huge opportunity for marketing platforms there. You have medicine. There's going to be with the addition of AI, we're going to have some incredible medical breakthroughs, because testing can be done before it's tested on humans or even mice. There are meta studies which go through, for example, NIH.gov, and look at all the samples of clinical trials that have been made and what their size was, and they provide summaries essentially, which are then published, which are then moved on. But with the advent of AI, you can combine all the databases and you can see actually and it's very nascent again, but it's happening, what's been provided in the past to create the future, to build on the future. So in medical, we're going to see tons of breakthroughs. What else? Supply chain, of course. Blockchain is very much there for supply chain, and there are a number of companies doing it. And of course, I've done some exporting it. I can see how it could be incredibly useful in preparing your documentation, in preparing, not like, oh yeah, well, we didn't get that paper, it blew away, you know? So can you email it to us again is not a good way to go. So you can, although it doesn't generally happen, honestly, that's a bad worst case scenario. So if you're, say, for example, exporting something from the US, AI can tell you what are it can have prepared for you actually the paperwork that you need, put it simply, and have that on the blockchain. So it's incredibly useful there. AI steps in automating it, providing answers.
Considering the potential impact of AI on job markets and industries, what are your thoughts on how AI might influence the future of work in a Web3 environment specifically?
We're all going to be trained on it, and we're all going to be trained on it as it evolves, because the Web3 infrastructure is continually growing. So you have two very fast growing industries here, essentially, which are combining. So as far as the impact on job markets, it's going to be, again, continually evolving, and it involves education, because if we don't have education and people aren't multi-talented in both, understanding blockchain, understanding how it works, understanding what it does, actually delving into the decentralized cryptocurrency exchanges and seeing how they work, and then cross-training on AI. As that happens, we're going to see more and more applications evolve. So that's going to be incredibly, it's going to move fast. Let's put it that way. So if you're not, what will happen it's going to move fast. So what's going to happen on the scale of enterprise to mid-sized companies to eventually the SMBs is going to be, as it usually is, it's going to happen at the top first and it's going to filter down. So the companies with fewer resources have time to educate themselves, and the companies with the largest resources are going to be at the top of their everything. It's really important for corporations who are going into this space with using platforms to educate themselves on these platforms, because there's a lot coming out. And if the C-suite is not educated on exactly how it works and the questions to ask, for example, great, you have this platform, it's working, but what cross chains is it using? How vulnerable are they? Have they been hacked? What is my AI privacy as a corporation? How do I block off, for example, my legacy databases, my payroll, for example, all the stuff that doesn't belong within an AI platform. So all that will have to be addressed. As far as data privacy, it's huge. But at least with decentralized networks, we will have tracking. So follow and keep as part of our databases the translation of that blockchain and what it means actually in real time, for real time track what is being shared. There will be more companies coming out that will actually provide that on their platforms and do it. So it's huge, it's growing. But corporate privacy is just as important as individual privacy, because it also protects the individual, but it protects the company. I mean, you don't want to find your data being out there sold in a silo,
Yeah, that's right. My next question, what do you think, what are the current limitations of AI?
Obviously, human sentience, I mean, that's the first, but that may evolve as well. There's so much press right now on, is AI going to be bad for us? Is it going to suck our world and we'll have these AI masters? There's all the buzz, right? Which I suppose theoretically is possible if all the AIs start talking to one another. We have this nightmare scenario where, they take over the world and all that good stuff. And then we have others who say, let it run free. And the truth is somewhere in between. It always is. So as we evolve with that, transparency is very important, extremely important to see what is actually happening, and transparency for corporations within their platforms too, within whatever platforms they are using legacy-wise, and have also their new platforms they're creating to harness the AI for business.
What happens if AI starts making decisions that are against the best interest of humanity?
Oh, I know, right? I mean, we have such a mess already.
Yeah.
We have wars, we have climate change, we have everything. So yeah, I suppose if it decided, okay, humans are stupid and they're destroying the earth, and we're not moving fast enough, I suppose it could make those decisions. But I think that hopefully the safeguards will not allow that. I think it remains to be seen, and it's why there should be vigilance. It can be used for, like everything, technology can be used for good or bad, and what is good and what is bad is depends on the lens looking at it. So what do you think?
Well, to be honest, I think, and I never thought about it, but maybe it's going to be scary. I don't know. I have to see how it's like. For now, I don't have opinion, but I have to see how it's going to be. But I think personally, I'm scared if it's AI, it's going to be making, if AI is going to be making decisions that against of humanity. Yeah, we'll see. But do you think it will happen after how many years do you think it will happen, or it's already happening maybe?
Yeah, I doubt it would take more than 10. Okay. Probably less, because it's a whole lot faster than we are, and we have quantum computing coming in. So yeah, that becomes very fast and creates change very quickly. There's so much science fiction written around, runaway AIs and all that it does make us wonder. And I'm with you there. I think that we have to just wait and see what happens and evolve our opinions around that. And at the end of the day, they are just opinions, and it's really, yours, mine, everybody's. There's a lot of emotion that people try to stir up around it, and really that's pointless, because all it does is create more emotion, hype, and clicks, So it's really, it depends. It depends on essentially what happens. We just have to watch it because we don't know.
That's right. I have also this personal question to you. How did you become interested in AI? I know it's crazy, amazing technology, but are there any other factors that became interested to you in terms of AI?
I'm always just fascinated with what's on the cutting edge of tech. I always have been. So as something evolves and comes up, like I knew around 2010 that we were all going to be personalized, because you can see what's happening and then you can get a take on the future. I don't have it on this yet. I keep reading and I keep looking, but as we continue to educate ourselves, we can do we begin to see what's going to happen. We become predictive ourselves. So what fascinated me, I don't know, I've been interested in blockchain since, like Bitcoin came out and was on WoW. It's just following and being a part of and being fascinated. It's not specific to AI.
Okay, Minka, I think I have a last question for you. As someone knowledgeable in Web3, what advice or suggestions would you give to AI researchers, developers, or entrepreneurs looking to create AI-powered solutions specifically tailored for Web3 environments?
I would go with entrepreneurs, essentially, because it's like everything. You look for a problem and how to solve it. So you're creating solutions within market gaps. You're creating solutions within problems that need to be solved. So I would say find the problems that need to be solved. Find the market gaps, because there are many more than are usually available, and make sure that you offer the things that will be needed before you create your product. For example, there's going to be a need for privacy, there's some regulation, but you also know that there is going to be more. So if you build that in to start with, when you're creating your solutions for whatever market you've chosen, whether it's enterprise, whether it's mid-market, whether it's SMB, provide that transparency, because that will give the confidence to the people you're selling to. So it will give your platform a boost. And make sure that you cover your part too, like segment off your AI from legacy data. Give that assurance immediately that they're taking their legacy data and they're putting it non-structured out there for the AI. And the AI is doing its semantic learning on it. Make sure that you reassure people that it's only the data that they're given. The AI is closed off from the rest of their system, and that essentially you're creating something which is beneficial on privacy terms as well as marketing and sales terms.
Thank you, Minka, for this amazing discussion. Hope you guys also enjoy it. If you guys got further questions or just want to connect with Minka, you will find her contact information in the video description.